Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ben here. I am back again today doing another video, and the subject of today's video is going to be a little bit different. I'm not doing a video on the NBA or on sports in general. Also not doing a video on movies. I'm doing a video about a television show. That television show is King of the Hill. It is essentially my favorite comedy show of all time. If you are unfamiliar with it, it ran from 1997 to 2009. It was on for 13 seasons. Up until Family Guy passed it, I think 2 or 3 years ago, King of the Hill was the second longest running animated show on television behind The Simpsons. So now it's third because Family Guy has hung on for so many years. Um, so King of the Hill was a thing that kind of represented the what life in the late 90s or really the early and mid 2000s was like. Um, it was uh, it was fairly central to what pop culture was in the 2000s. I think it was a show that was never like the first thing that people thought of when they thought of television, but it was always something that was in people's minds as far as like quality comedy um, animated shows out there. I hesitate to call it a cartoon because I think that really um, is not what it was, honestly. It was really what it was a situational comedy that happened to not be acted by real actors and just happened to be drawn and animated rather than with real people. But it very much is a show that plays out like a real life situational comedy. It's kind of reminiscent of a show maybe like Modern Family or something like that, like The Office, but just so happens to be animated. And fun fact, one of the co-creators of King of the Hill, when he left King of the Hill, what he left it to do was to be the co-creator of the U.S. Office. So if you really like The Office, you probably would like King of the Hill because not that they're super similar in general, but I think just like comedically their styles there is some overlap in that I think like if you find some of the funny situations of The Office entertaining, you probably would find certain things of King of the Hill entertaining and funny and enjoyable. It's not at all like a show like The Simpsons or like Family Guy or Rick and Morty or anything like that. It doesn't rely on the cartoonish, unrealistic aspect to um, get its plot advanced or have different things happen to the characters. It's very much grounded in reality, and I think that's a big misconception about the show. Like I've been saying, is that people think that because it's animated, it's cartoon like, and it's very much not. And so I think that's something really important to keep in mind with this show. And basically, why I'm making this video is I think that this is one of the greatest television shows of all time, not just because it was on for a long time, not just because a lot of people watched it, but I think I just owed it to myself and to other people out there to make this video because it is a show that I think very rarely gets talked about these days, and it was one of the best shows to ever hit pop culture in general. And I don't think it's a show we should forget about anytime soon. It did this amazing thing where it took the ordinary and made it really enjoyable, but not in a way like Seinfeld did, which was very different. Seinfeld took like mundane everyday life topics and made them funny, but it did it a lot of times at the expense of the characters on the show or people on the show in general. Like it did it it made these everyday situations funny, but often there had to be somebody who had to be the butt of the joke and getting made fun of or had to experience some misfortune. That really doesn't happen nearly as much in King of the Hill, and that I think the show in and of itself is very warm. Relatively speaking, it's pretty lighthearted, and you'll handle some situations that tug at the heart sometimes, or really make you contemplate some things sometimes. But I think in general, it's a show that you can just turn on and enjoy, and it makes you think a little bit, it makes you feel a little bit, but um, you just walk away feeling really satisfied and although it's a comedy that makes fun of different aspects of pop culture and um, like the world as a whole, sometimes it really is pretty wholesome. And as I was saying, the difference between it and Seinfeld in that uh, King of the Hill, it pokes fun of it at some of its characters sometimes, but bad things never like explicitly happen to them. Whereas I think on Seinfeld, like the writers sometimes purposely made really bad things happen to their characters just so that we could watch them squirm. But that never really happens on King of the Hill. People never go through something bad just purely for our entertainment. Usually it's for like to learn a lesson or something like that. So I really like that about the show, and um, I think what always makes me coming back to King of the Hill is that much I think for a lot of us, much like real life, we have these neighbors or friends of our family or just people that we've known for forever who are just kind of part of our lives, and in general, they're good people, and we kind of keep coming back to them, and nothing extraordinary ever happens to them or to us necessarily, but we forge these bonds with them that are tight, and that's like King of the Hill. Like, I know it sounds maybe a little too gushy, but you have this main the main cast of King of the Hill, if you really want to break it down, is Hank, his wife Peggy, their son Bobby, and then Hank's friends. Boomhauer, I'm not really going to count because he never really, he's there, but he's got kind of just there as comedic relief very occasionally. And actually, most of the time, he's just silent, though, so I'm not really going to count him. But the main characters are really Hank, Peggy, Bobby, Dale, and Bill. Those are like your main five characters if you're really getting to the heart of King of the Hill. And I think those people, I all have their flaws, and King of the Hill very thoroughly explores all of their flaws. But King of the Hill also, what it does is it never um, it never exploits those people in a way. Like it it's very true to who they are, in that I think it writes them as if they're real people, and that they maybe do the wrong thing sometimes, but that also doesn't make them like the villain. And I think they're nothing that they ever do in any episode isn't redeemable. And I think something that King of the Hill does that I like a lot is, unlike other shows where whatever happens in one episode is basically automatically reset in the next, um, that's one type of show that's called episodic, where basically nothing carries over to the next episode. And then you have another kind of show that's called like a serial show. So what like a serial drama, and what that would mean is that what happens in one episode continues to carry over to the next and to the next. So like almost any show out there that's a drama has this sort of feature, like I don't know, The Walking Dead or Breaking Bad. What happens in each episode bleeds into what happens in the next. And King of the Hill struck this great balance where, relatively speaking, the show is episodic, that you could kind of watch it at any point and enjoy it, but also the characters do slowly over time change, in that like at the beginning, Luann is living at the Hills house and has basically no job, no prospects for a job, is like 19 years old and has nothing going for her. Then over time, she goes to beauty school, then she goes to community college, then she moves out of the house, gets her own house, then she gets married, has a child. Like, this happens over the 13 seasons, so it's not like these are major developments happening within one season, but like, they just do these slow incremental character developments. Or like Peggy, she starts as a substitute teacher. I think she does that until around season 5. Then from about season 6 to like season 9 or 10, she works at the local newspaper, and then the last couple of seasons, she's a real estate agent. So, not like huge development or anything that like that, but just like subtle things where like the show does develop, but it also It also retains like that relative idea of being episodic where you can kind of pick it up wherever. And I think that in and of itself is very true to real life where like things will develop in people's lives like getting a new job or meeting somebody new like a new significant other or having a child eventually or moving out of the house eventually. Those things change aspects of a person's life in subtle ways, but really you remain who you are throughout those, I think. And like what you do day to day is going to be relatively similar. Like you're going to come home to the same people probably if you're already married and you got a new job. Or if you are moving into a new house, you know, you'll come home to a different place every day, but you'll still be going to the same job, like Luann. Um, and so that's something I like about the show. It strikes like basically the perfect balance between developing and advancing plots subtly on the side while also like as a whole being able to be episodic and you can really pick up the show wherever you want to pick it up and watch an episode and enjoy it. Other things I like about the show, the animation is really pretty rough, like in season one. But after season one, the animation is pretty good. They draw their characters very thoughtfully. They are one of the few animated shows to really give a lot of attention and detail to the expressions of cartoon characters, which not many shows like The Simpsons or um, Family Guy would ever do. They give a lot of subtlety to how their characters react and just what the expression on their face is. I love that. Um, I guess you'd say King of the Hill is like a dry sense of humor, and it's a I don't know. Just I think if you like The Office, if you like Parks and Rec, if you like situational comedies, you'd really enjoy it. And I guess also one last thing I want to say about the show, it covers a lot of different topics without ever expressing whether something is necessarily right or wrong. And I think that in and of itself is very impressive and I like it a lot. Like for instance, Hank Hill is a conservative, good old boy Texan who is, you know, probably like your pretty typical Republican, goes to church on Sundays, believes in wholesome American values, does everything by the book. He encounters a lot of people that really clash with his ideologies and belief systems, though, and that's like a lot of the entertainment from the show comes from those conflicts, but the show never says whether Hank's way is right or whether someone else's way is right. They kind of just show you both sides and show you how, despite our differences, we can all get along. And I think that that's really impressive. You know, a show that can broach topics like politics, religion, um, simple differences like just getting along with your neighbor. Things like race relations have been topics of the show before. Social stereotypes, and I the show, as I say, it's not like you're gonna learn any like enlightening insights about yourself or about the world from watching it, but I think it's impressive that the show can cover all those subjects and never state an opinion on them really, in that they're very good at just saying like this is what some people believe, but we're not saying whether it's right or not. Um, and that's actually coming down from the creator himself, Mike Judge. He said that a goal of his is never to really express his or anyone else's personal opinions through a show or another medium that they create. Like he said, my personal beliefs should never bleed through to a show I create or like a movie I write. And I think he does a great job of that in King of the Hill. And ultimately, at the end of the day, the lesson of King of the Hill is like you can be different from somebody and still get along with them. And you know, the part where you find out what your differences are and try and reconcile them, that provides a lot of comedy for the show. But at the end, the getting along part, I think that actually, it sounds maybe corny, but provides a very heartwarming message for a comedy show. There you go, guys. That's why I think that King of the Hill is a great show and that you should check it out if you haven't before. Hope you enjoyed this video and hope you have a good day. Bye.